God's more concerned about developing your character than anything else. And the only way to develop your character is to persevere through the hard things. There's no shortcuts to developing character. And that's why we can count it all joy when we face trials, because we know that when we persevere, it's going to refine us as men. It's going to refine our character. It's going to take us to a new level.
I just want to say, I've known Josh, I've known you for quite a while. Actually, we attended the same church together for a while.
Yeah.
Actually, that's where you found your wife.
Yeah.
My church.
Yeah.
You're lucky.
Yeah. You weren't involved though, but
So, but we've worked together here at the Quest Life. You've been a very key leader with the ministry at Quest Life. So we've been friends. We've worked together here in the ministry for so many years. But today I want to talk to you about your new book. First-time author?
yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah. Thanks. Well, thanks for having me on. Yeah.
I should have this, but you kind of went for it. But
Yeah.
It's called Change on the Rise. And so I want to talk a little bit about your book. Before you do that, just tell us a little bit about yourself. Just kind of intro so people know who you are.
Yeah. Like you mentioned, I've been around and part of this ministry for 10 years, and my quest 10 years ago was a pivotal time in my life where it just changed everything, and so been really involved over the last 10 years. Jamie and I have been married for 10 years as well, and have 4 kids, and so Quest and what we do here is something I'm real passionate about. Yeah.
Great. Well, you wrote a book called Change and Rise, which is, I've read it, great book. What inspired you to write this book?
Mm-hmm. I wasn't really expecting to write a book, but as some people who are watching this know a little bit about my story, and I talk about it some in the book. But over a year ago, last March, one of my friends died, and you knew Troy, and he was part of Quest as well, and left behind his 2 kids, and so we're now raising them as our own. We've I made a promise to him that I would if something were to ever happen to him, and so life's just been really crazy over the last year, 15 months or so. Went from having 1 to 4, so my wife gave birth to another one during that time period. So really at the end of last year, it was kind of a therapeutic thing to write this book, because there was just so many things I was thinking about, so many emotions, and being a part of Quest and being on so many events over the years, I've heard hundreds of stories from men, and the struggles and the things and the fears, they're all the same. And at the end of last year, there were a number of guys that I know directly, indirectly, that were just struggling with the same stuff, and they were getting stuck. And some of them were just giving up, some were quitting, and really it was kind of born out of both a little bit of frustration, and wanting to do something about it. And the frustration being, I don't want these guys to quit. I mean, the stuff I'm going through, I'm not going to quit. I don't want these guys to quit. And so, I just started going through years of notes that I've been taking for the last 10 years. I'd come back from Quest events and I'd take down notes. This is stuff that I saw, stuff that I heard, stuff that God told me, whatever. I'd read books, take notes. I'd hear sermons, take notes. I'd hear Omar say something, I'd take notes. So yeah. And so I just started going through my notes, and it was just this quick process. It just came about really quickly. Like,
it's amazing.
I realized I had over 100 pages of notes on what turned into the 5 chapters. And so as I started organizing it and putting it into topics and themes and stuff like that, I'm like, well, I kind of have something here. And then it was fun. I'm like, okay, as a shot in the arm that I need, I'm going to go to the office and write today. And so, it just came about quickly. And
it's amazing, your book came out of your story. So this
Yep.
book is not just concepts. This came from a journey with God and men, and then your life, which is that story. I know the story of Troy, and I thought, what a heroic call God given you, the grace to, having two kids yourself, adopt these two older kids, not teenagers, but still, and being a parent, you and Jamie parenting these kids for Troy, which is just an amazing story. I'm sure God's going to write another book out of that one.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, when you look at a book like this and hearing your story, who are you looking at when you're writing? When you were writing this book, who are you looking at?
Yeah. Really, the guys that I had in mind when I wrote this book were guys in their 20s and 30s, because I'm turning 40 this year. And so I was like, I'm looking back on those 2 decades and what happened in my life in those 2 decades, and what I've learned over the years of doing so many quest events is we're all the same. Like, guys, we're all the same, and we have the same fears, the same struggles, the same stuff. And so, I'm like, this is the stuff that I've went through in my 20s and 30s, that's representative of most of the guys too.
Yeah, that's great.
And so I'm like, if I could sit down with a guy, for 2 or 3 hours and just tell him, just give him all the advice and wisdom and everything that I've accumulated in those 2 decades. Here's what I would say. And that's kind of where it started. And that's kind of the focus, because we're talking about these 5 phases, which ultimately lead to the legacy you leave behind, which starts today. You can start living with your legacy and the end in mind in your 20s and 30s. You don't have to wait till you're really old to do that. And at the same time, though, what I've written, this applies to guys older than that too. I mean, it's not just for that.
But the audience you were looking at was to reach back to the younger guys to say, here's some key things that I've learned in the which is kind of the best, because as you get older, I'm 60. So between 40 and 60, you're going to learn new lessons, right?
Yeah.
You're not there yet.
Mm-hmm.
I've just had my 8th grandkid. So grandparenting is a whole new season, right? But I love the fact that you looked back to go, here's my experience. You talked about the book. Give us kind of a brief overview, just quick overview on the books. I think you have 5 phases, it's called.
Yeah.
What are the 5 phases? Give us a quick snapshot of it.
Yeah. So the subtitle of the book is the 5 phases of a man's life and living one that matters. And so the 5 phases that I've identified would be discovering your identity, who you really are, because that's the foundation for everything else. And then second phase is manhood, discovering who you are as a man and who God's called you to be as a man. Third is love and marriage, right? So we meet the girl and fall in love and get married, and that's a whole new thing. And then fourth phase is fatherhood. That leads into fatherhood and having kids, and what does that phase look like? And then ultimately the fifth phase would be the legacy that we leave behind. That's the culmination of all of the other stuff, the previous 4 phases. And so in each of those phases, there's challenges, there's opportunities to get stuck in places. And so, and there's also just confusion that the world brings in all of those phases, confusion about who we are and what we're supposed to do and the roles that we have. And so in the book, I wanted to address, those common places where men get stuck and where the world brings confusion. And I want to bring clarity and this is what God actually says. And this is how you can get unstuck. This is how you can live, free. And this is how you can walk in the calling that God has for you.
Yeah, I love that. Brilliant. Those 5 phases are just spot on when you think about it. I want to key in on the fatherhood based on the story you just told, because you have a unique perspective now of fatherhood, because you have 2 of your own with Jamie, and then you adopted your fathers to 2 adopted kids. Talk to me a little bit about those 2 different perspectives. What's God doing in that pocket there?
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It is a challenge. It is different, and it's all still fresh because it's been 15 months, and so we're still trying to figure it out and still trying to navigate it, and there's a significant age gap between the kids too, because Avery's 3, and then Dylan is 7 months old, and then the older one's Jillian is 12 and Jet's 14. So there's a big age gap, and you're dealing with an infant, a toddler, and then a preteen, and then one that's a teenager, and so there's
God
so much
doing
change.
there, John? I mean, what is God doing with you?
Well, it's hard, because you have to navigate so much too, because the 2 older kids have been through so much. They lost both parents, and so there's a lot of trauma. There's a lot of stuff to walk through with them, and there's a lot of behaviors and habits that have to be unlearned and better ways learned, and so they're all 4 completely different, and all 4 in completely different phases, and stages of life. And when you're thrown right into it, you don't get this opportunity to ramp up over the years and work your way up to those ages. It's immediately, one day you don't have any teenagers, the next day you got teenagers, and they got issues and they got stuff. And
I mean, it's not like he didn't even ease you into it. Like God just kind of,
yeah.
You're talking about speed.
Right.
Like he was like, here you are, Josh. I'm going to grow you up really fast.
Yeah.
Right.
I feel like I'm using Quest principles every day. I mean, I feel like I'm questing every day,
Quest does equip you, right, for a lot of this stuff that you do.
And I mean, that's a big part, when it's easy to, when that happens, it's easy to question God and be like, why did this happen? Why me? Why did you, but, well, what God's shown me and what I really believe is that, while we were surprised by this and we weren't expecting it, he wasn't surprised by this. He knew it was going to happen, and he had been training and equipping both Jamie and I for the last 10 years, because Jamie's very involved in Quest too. And he knew what these kids were going to need. And so he uniquely equipped us and prepared us in a way that nobody else was ready to handle this situation.
Right.
Back to your original question. Yeah. Like I'm still trying to figure out what it looks like, but it is different. It is different. And it's both intentional. You have to be intentionally different in the way you parent each 2. And then there's just the natural stuff too. The natural, well, these are my kids, right. This natural connection you have to them. And then you've got the other 2 where it's like, it's easier to love the 2 younger ones. It's harder to love the 2 older ones, of course, because they're plopped right into your house and they start immediately doing what teenagers do and destroy your house, and having attitude and stuff. But you have to choose. That's the thing with love is it's not an emotion, it's a choice. Yeah. And so,
but let's stop there. That's a big thought, because I think love is a choice, not an emotion, is a huge insight, right? That I think is going to be unpacked in years to come and also help others, because that principle also works in marriages, right? Like love is a choice, not a feeling. The myth of that, and God just working through that in you in a real way, real time. What does that look like? That you have to make a choice to love that person unconditionally. Yeah. And so I think what a great things. If you could summarize the book and say the theme of the book in a sentence or a thought, what would you say is the theme of the book?
The theme, well, it really is a book of just encouragements more than anything, and it's calling guys into something greater. It's pulling. I want to pull guys up out of wherever they're stuck, and so yeah, I would. If I had to summarize it quickly, it's a book of encouragements in on all of those phases, right? If you're struggling with who you are, why you matter, there's encouragement for that. It's really hard. I recognize that guys in their 20s, especially, 20s, 30s. I mean, it's universal. But I recognize that that younger guys really struggle with is this all life is?
Right.
Like life is hard, right? Like we watch the news and we're like, the economy is so bad and all these things are so bad and all this political stuff is so bad, and I'm struggling to find a job, and I can't afford to live out on my own, and I can't afford to have kids, and like all these things, right?
Yeah.
And so it's overwhelming, and you can feel like, is this it? Is this all life is supposed to be? Is it going to be a struggle like this forever?
Yeah. Let me ask that question, in a different way. Same question, same thought, but in a positive way. After reading your book, what do you hope happens to them?
Yeah.
What do you hope they do different or think different?
One, that wherever there is confusion about who they are or what they're supposed to be doing, that there would be clarity. All right, this is I'm better understanding my purpose, my mission, what I'm supposed to do, what God's calling me to do, how to break through this thing. This has been holding me back. Now I know how to break through it. In each chapter, there's questions for reflection and also action steps.
I like that about the book. You put some goals that could
set a goal. Here's how I'm going to do it. Here's potential roadblocks. I'm going to commit to a date, and then ultimately, the big thing coming away from it is I wanna live with the end in mind, because that's where we end in the book. Is how do I start living my life today with the end in mind, and the end being, what do I want people to say about me when I'm gone? What are they going to say about me at my funeral? What's the legacy that I'm leaving behind in other people? Not the stuff I'm leaving behind for people, but what am I leaving inside other people? What am I imparting into other people? And that starts now. It's not something that you wait until you are 60 or 70 to start thinking about my legacy. It starts now with your young kids, with your young family. Like, you're building that legacy now. And so if you can live your life with that in mind, it's gonna impact the choices you make today, because you're making choices today that impact future generations.
I like what you said in the book. I think Richard said it, or you wrote it down, where you're actually living your life for those who sit in the front row of your funeral. Right?
Yeah, that's a Richard Henderson quote. Yeah. So I gave him credit in there because it's a great one. But Richard, that's what he says, and that's what he challenged me with, and he said, live your life for the people that are going to sit in the front row of your funeral. Yeah,
that was a brilliant line. And by the way, Richard Henderson is the founder of the Quest Life. But I thought it was such a brilliant quote that they did, to live for those people. And what a way to think, right, about it. So I'm going to ask you some personal questions. So what did you learn about yourself in writing this book? Because you just said, I never really thought about writing a book.
Yeah.
So I want to know, in the process, what did you learn about you? And some things you learned even about writing.
Yeah. Well, I guess I learned that I can do it. Because I always felt like I didn't have anything worth writing about. I forget who it was. It might have been Mark Twain or someone. I think Mark Twain said, do something worth writing about, or, and so I'm like, I don't know if I've done anything worth writing about. And I was always more comfortable just taking in the information, taking in wisdom and being mentored. And then, but now it's just an outpouring of what's been poured in to me. So I guess what I learned about myself is that I can do it. So when I think about this, I'm like, well, maybe I've got other ideas. Maybe there's other stuff I can write about.
How was the process for you? Like, how did you, part of the writing books, people always see it as a daunting task, right? So one, you struggle with, do I have anything to say? We all have something to say. I personally, have 3 or 4 books laying around that I've tinkered with. But I think the idea is, do you have something to say, or is it the right thing to say? You just say. And so part of your accomplishment was you have something to say. It's your unique story. Nobody has your story. But then the other one is, do I know how? So how did you kind of meet that challenge? You get up in the morning. What was your routine to do it?
Yeah, it was. I'd just go to my office, and like I said, it gave me something new to do in a time where I needed a shot in the arm. I needed something other than dealing with the stuff at home and dealing with the stuff at work. So yeah, I would go to the office, and in the morning it would be my first thing, and I would just do that. And I think because I had so much material already written, that really helped, because as I started putting things together in the 5 chapters, I realized I had a lot of content already written. It just needed to be refined, put together in a cohesive way.
So you were writing a
stuff
book.
added to
You've
it.
been writing a book for a few years.
Yeah, and I just
In
didn't
one way,
realize
you didn't
it.
know that
Yeah.
you're writing a book, right?
Yeah,
So
and then
keeping notes,
and then just having never done it before, getting feedback from guys that had done it before, and could give me good insight to refine it was really helpful. Sent it to Duncan Brandon, and he gave me a tremendous amount of feedback, like really important stuff, because he's an author and extremely smart, and he really helped me make it.
so a mentor is important, right? Like in writing a book, what I hear from you is like, I think it's really such a great story that you're writing this book in the midst of trouble. Because usually say, well, I need to go away. Because, the normal thing is I need 3 months to go lay on the beach in Hawaii and just meditate and write my book.
Yeah.
You're writing the book in the midst of war. Like you're chronicling stuff in the midst of all, which is really incredible story by itself. And then a mentor is important to help you kind of with those issues, right?
Yeah. So, I from start to finish, it took me 4 months. And yeah, I couldn't have done it without the mentorship. If I would have released it without sending it to anybody to get their feedback and help, it would have been not nearly as good. And so you have to be willing to get help. Yeah. And then 2, I set a deadline. When I started it, I set a deadline. I said March 18th is when it's going to go live on Amazon, and I'm not going to change the deadline. And so that put pressure on me as I got closer to the deadline to wrap it up and not to continually add to it.
Which is, it's powerful. Are you getting any kind of feedback from guys, people that are reading it? What's some things you've heard?
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of great feedback, which is really encouraging. And because the whole reason for me, this writing this wasn't about trying to make money from it. It was, I really want to have something that I can give guys when I meet them that are my words, that that they're stuck somewhere. I'm like, hey man, here's this book I wrote, and that it would encourage them. And so that's really why I wanted to write it.
The true desire, the authentic desire is to just tell your story and how God has changed your life, right? That's kind of the true thing. So what's next for Josh? What do you think? You've accomplished this. It must have kind of generated some more ideas, thoughts, anything. What's next?
Well, I'm not entirely sure. I haven't completely made up my mind. And as you said earlier, I'm going to be starting a new phase, a new decade, and there's going to be all new stuff. And as the older kids go through their teenage years and stuff like that, there's going to be new stuff to write about. And so I don't know exactly what it looks like. One of the things that has been rattling around in my mind. Well, 2 things really rattling around in my mind. One of them being, I've been writing some daily devotionals for me and Jet to do. He's 14, and they're specific on things. Like right now, we're doing devotionals on humility, and he's got ADHD and he's dyslexic. And so what I've found is there's really no devotionals for kids with dyslexia. Mm-hmm. And so as I've been writing these kind of custom tailored for him and the stuff that he's going through, so we can walk through specific issues, because I from 14 to 18, I want to walk him through, from young manhood to manhood. And so there may be something that comes out of that later on down the road, these devotionals that I'm writing for him. And then the other thing is just with this book, the way that I've written it and that it's turned out is it's really a great book, like that a small group of guys could read together. And so I've thought about creating maybe like a facilitator's guide that goes along with it. So if a group of 5 guys wanted to read the book together, then one guy could lead the group, and here's a small little guide on how to do that and how to stuff to talk through about each phase, because you could do each phase in each week or something like that. So just something to add to it, maybe.
Very good. You know what I see too? I mean, think about how God is writing books through you. I mean, here you have a 14-year-old that you're discipling, really.
Mm-hmm.
And in that process, you've solving an issue that needs to be solved is how do you disciple a 14-year-old with these issues and keep him engaged? And then also the transition, right? Because what we lack in our society is 14 to 18. There's no ritual of transition into manhood in our society, which all other societies, ancient societies, had a real clear ritual. So you're going to walk that out with him too, right?
Yeah.
And that he goes from 14 to 18, which is an incredible thing. So, and the book, when you think about those 5 phases you write, they don't go away.
No.
So what I see is they don't go away. God's just going to teach you a deeper level of each 5. As you grow, identity gets deeper.
Right.
When you talk about identity, right? And then you talk about manhood, right? Like, what is it to be a man? And then you talk about marriage. This is important issues. And then you talk about fatherhood and then legacy, which I love the word legacy, because you are leaving a legacy in the process. And I think God's going to give you kind of depth to those 5, even more. So who knows? Maybe your book might be Changing Their Eyes Revised. I learned more.
Yeah.
I'm learning more. You might have 5 of those books.
Yeah.
The phases of Josh's life. Right?
Yeah.
So no, it's really great. So if somebody wanted to buy the book, or where can they find the book? Maybe talk a little bit about how they can connect to you or your book.
Yeah, I mean, just on Amazon. On Amazon, and then you have a website, just changeontherise.com.
Okay.
And on the website, I'll post every now and then some new stuff, some blog posts and stuff like that.
And you also if guys want you to speak at their men's breakfast, do you do speaking stuff, engagements?
It's not something I've done very much of, but I'd be willing to do it if someone wanted me to.
Yeah. So you also open if men's breakfast or something wanted to call you in, because you lead the breakfast here at the Quest Life. You're the leader of. We do a monthly breakfast.
Yeah.
If you're interested in connecting to us, Josh, along with Jung, lead a men's breakfast once a month, the first Saturday of every month.
Yeah.
Here at the FTF offices.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity to just gather on a regular basis, whether you've quested or not. I mean, we have guys that show up that have never been on Quest, which is great, but the majority of them have quested, and it's a great way to continue that Quest life. And so, if you haven't been to one of the breakfasts, first Saturday of every month here at the FTS office, it's a great time to get encouragement and have fellowship.
Yeah, great. Well, Josh, I just want to say from me, I've known you for a while. I'm proud of you to write the book, and I think the organization, the Quest Life, is proud to have someone like you, an author, someone that will write really important stuff for young guys. I think your audience of 20 to 30 is spot on what God's called you to do. And so we're proud of you, and man, we support you in this effort and want to hear what God does with you even more in the coming years, because he has you in some difficult situation, but in there's pearls, right? There's wisdom and insight he gives you, where in James, he says, count it all joy when you suffer temptations, or because he builds in you resilience, right? Patience, endurance, right?
Yeah,
and wisdom, right? It gives you the ability to, because there's things you'll learn that you won't learn any other way.
Yeah, there's
You've
no shortcuts.
seen that, right?
There's no shortcuts.
You've probably learned a lot just in the fire of things you've never learned, right? So they feel heavy and hard right now, but you walk away with that gold that you're handing to the next generation. Goes, consider this.
Yeah, and perseverance. I know we're running out of time, but perseverance is a big thing I talk about in the book.
Yeah.
Because God's more concerned about developing your character than anything else. And the only way to develop your character is to persevere through the hard things. There's no shortcuts to developing character.
That's good.
And that's why we can count it all joy when we face trials, because we know that when we persevere, it's going to refine us as men. It's going to refine our character. It's going to take us to a new level. And what it does is it's not revealing anything new to God that he doesn't already know about us. When we persevere, it reveals to us what we're really capable of. And that's the encouragement is when I persevere through this, I realize more who I am and who God's created me to be. And so perseverance is a big thing that I address in the book. Yeah.
Well, wish you great success in that book, Josh, and thank you for saying yes to God, and thank you for serving at the Quest Life, and thank you for doing this.
Well, thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Omar.
Yeah.